And good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in to Leadership Matters. I am Sheryl White, and I am delighted to have our entire co-host team with us today. And I'm going to give each of our, and I'll say, Dr. Dre, you've been with us for years, but we're going to
Yes.
have you with us more regularly.
Yep.
And also joining us will be Dr. Loretta Howard. I'm going to ask each of you to say a little bit about yourselves as we get ready to rock and roll together today. So, our newest member of our host team, Dr. Loretta Howard, why don't we have you say a little bit about yourself?
Okay, thank you, Dr. White. Well, right now, I guess I like to say I wear a few hats. I'm an entrepreneur, an HR consultant, and I also serve as the executive director of a nonprofit here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So, and I stay busy, quite busy.
Wonderful. Well, Loretta, Dr. Loretta, for sharing a little bit about yourself. And Dr. Dre, how about
Yeah.
yourself?
Dr. White, it is such an honor to be rejoining you again on a
Yeah,
regular basis. And so
yeah.
excited about that. So, co-principal of Howard Communication Strategy Consultants, and we've been doing this for a number of years. And leadership, of course, is kind of my sweet spot. So, really excited about our new format and how we're going to move together as a team, and hopefully have an exciting and engaging time at doing all of this. So just excited about the whole process. And again, looking forward to hearing your voices, as well as other voices that will join us down through the year as well. So just excited to be here. Thank you.
And excited to have you here.
Yes.
Why don't we stay with you, Dr. Dre, and have you just share, talk about a little bit of our new format. So
Yeah.
what is your vision for our show?
Yeah, I think it's probably a number of things. Leadership comes in so many different sizes and shapes and forms. And so really hearing the voice of leaders, whether it's from the public service, nonprofit, even for profit. I mean, I think we want to even gauge that a little bit, but just hearing voices about how they think about leadership in today's society, how they've developed their leadership discipline over the years, even over the decade, and really looking for a divergent mix of voices, right? I don't want folks to just come on our show and just agree with everything we have to say, because guess what? We could be wrong.
Mhm.
So looking for folks who will challenge me, because guess what? I also want to be in the position to learn as well. And so I want some folks who, as we think about the format, some folks who can come and teach me a few things
Okay.
Mhm.
as well. And so I think that becomes the most powerful prospect for the vision for the show in terms of what I'm hoping to think about. But definitely the divergent of views and leadership discipline, and how folks manage the different challenges when it comes to leadership. And just looking to engage in some good conversation, and really turning that into action, hopefully, as part of that process. So looking forward to that. And that's kind of my bigger vision in terms of where this show goes, and how it really takes to the next level. So
Great. And Dr. Loretta, how about yourself?
Okay, well, for me as the newbie on the block, I did listen to several of the shows just to get a feel for it. And I have to say, everything I listened to, I felt it was more than just a conversation, because the guests that you all had brought on, they were either established leaders or emerging leaders, and they really were concerned about, bringing together people in the communities, the work that they do. It was just so many powerful statements that people made, and I was just really impressed with it. I am so honored to be a part of it. But again, I feel that this is a platform that's really, it's such a welcoming environment. When Dr. White says something to a person, you just really feel very comfortable with her, and you have a way of having people to talk about their real experiences and lessons, their hopes. And then I feel like as a listener, I walked away, I was inspired. So I really do like the way that you say that you're inspiring leaders, because it was so inspirational, and to be a part of that. And then people were giving real life lessons and their hopes. And so it was just phenomenal to me. And I felt like it made a positive impact just for me to listen to it, because sometimes you have a role and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm tired of doing this. But I got inspired and energized listening to some of the old shows and thought, okay, I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, awesome. And
Yeah.
and I welcome both of those thoughts. And
Yeah.
Dr. Loretta, glad that you found the shows that you listen
Yeah.
have a positive impact and be
Yes,
helpful. And Dr. Dre, I join you in
Yeah.
saying that always want to have guests. I think people learn and grow from interaction with each other. So
Absolutely.
certainly my expectation is that each of us will grow and learn as we interact with each other and as we interact with our guest.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
My vision is that we continue to
Right.
inform leaders and inspire solutions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the other piece too, Dr. White and Dr. Loretta Howard, I think the other piece I would add to this again is we do want to create that culture of calmness, of peace, but we also want to be a little punchy and tangy in the process, right? I mean, I want our guests who are going to be coming up
Yeah.
these next several months to certainly, be able to talk a little bit about their leadership experience and platform, but also want to ask the tough questions, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the stuff that really impacts and gets to the root of real leadership. I think that's what we're missing today as we think about leadership is really impacting that muscle that I think. So yeah, so certainly calming, inviting, a wonderful platform. Yeah, I get it. We all get it. But I want to be a little tangy, a little punchy as well, and ask some tough questions as we think about this new platform as well. So.
Okay, love it, love it. Well, thinking about what's coming up, Loretta, why don't you share for our listening audience maybe what we're planning for June and just kind of thoughts about the unfolding of our show over the next few months.
Okay, great. For the June session, we're really going to get started to talking about leading through times of uncertainty, which is exactly what we're living in right now, times of uncertainty. And some of the topics will focus on embracing ambiguity because leaders are definitely facing that. They just don't know what to do. It's like that gray area has just become a fog and it's getting large. Transparency, decision making, adaptability, emotional intelligence, which I know is one of Dr. Dre's favorite things to talk
Yes.
about. And then change management, because right now we're living in a time where you've got to change the way that you're thinking, the way that we've done things before. The status quo is not really working anymore. We have to really look at what's happening in the external environment so we know how to move forward in our organization. So, and we're going to have a very special guest on June 11th, Mr. Howard Garvell, the author of Pick My Brain, as well as he was the principal and founder of Leaders for Futures LLC. So looking forward to all of that. So June is
Yeah.
quite insightful, and I think it'll give Dr. Dre an opportunity to ask some of those tangy questions.
Okay.
Right.
Well, and I'll piggyback on June a little bit before we move to and say, well, I know today, after we kind of do a little bit more of the framing and letting people know what's to come, I know each of us will talk a little bit about our thoughts on leading through uncertainty. But next week, I'm looking forward to my president and CEO from the Neighborhood House Association in San Diego, California, speaking on this topic of uncertainty,
Oh,
leading
great.
midst of uncertainty as well. So June is, I think, coming in, and we'll be here, and we can be certain that we will definitely cover leading through uncertainty from a lot of different angles that hopefully will be insightful for our listeners. Dr.
Yeah,
Gray.
that's an exciting episode next week with Dr. Rudy Johnson. I mean, he's an awesome leader, great visionary, has been in the community for a very long time, and so really understands the breadth of real leadership and what it takes to really manage through uncertain times. So I'm already got my popcorn ready for that show for next week. I think it's going to be awesome in terms of delivering impact around that topic. So.
Great, awesome. Dr. Dre, you want to maybe stay on the horn and have you share a little bit about July?
Yeah, July, we're going to delve a little bit into leadership development, why it's so important, right? I mean, we really, need to think about, I'm always fascinated with the question around are leaders born or are leaders made? I mean, I think that's an essential question that we'll certainly examine through the month of July. But we're going to delve into some topics around, what it means to hold one accountable from a leadership perspective. What does that mean? Is that a reciprocated process with the leader as well as with its team? We're going to certainly think about the bench strength, certainly thinking about knowledge management, right, in terms of how knowledge is transferred from one leader to the next. And how do you ready a workforce and prepare them for that knowledge management aspect as well as the power of coaching and mentoring. I think too often we get it confused in terms of I think coaching and mentoring are two different processes that I think are just equally important, but both are needed to nurture really the complete leader as part of that process. So we're going to kind of examine some pieces around that. Certainly thinking about employee engagement and retention, as we think about, folks even being called back into the workplace versus working at home or hybrid situation. How do you engage employees through a hybrid solution, or if they are able to work out of the office, what does that look like in terms of engaging? And how is retention impacted by those paradigms as well? And then, of course, organizational performance will be another piece that we'll delve into as part of the leadership development. But I think certainly addressing the leadership gap, I mean, there's all kinds of things, right? We can talk about the intergenerational differences that we'll probably delve into a little bit. I mean, it's going to be a really exciting time in July to really just go deep into the importance of leadership development and why we should understand that as part of the process. So,
Yeah, yes, and
yeah,
I think
yeah,
such an important thing, and
yeah,
like you said, building the bench strength and
absolutely,
that
absolutely. So that's
that
going to be
whole
wonderful. Dr.
yeah.
White, what about you? This whole thing called joy, is that August? I mean, what is joy? I mean, is there even such a thing? That's funny. Joy
There's
in the workplace as a leader? Are you kidding me?
absolutely joy in the workplace as a leader. We,
Okay,
you know what, we're going to take a short break, but when we come
okay.
back, we'll talk more about August and then maybe move into talking about our own experiences as relates to leading in times of uncertainty. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters. Delighted today to have our entire host team with us. I'm Sheryl White. Delighted to be here with my two co-hosts, Dr. Undraye Howard and Dr. Loretta Howard. Welcome back.
Thank
And,
you.
Thank you.
and I'm going to just toss it back over to you, Dr. Dre.
Dr. White, I want to hear more about this joy. I mean, joy from a leadership perspective, joy that we're supposed to have. I mean, this is supposed to be the hot topic for August. What do you mean by joy?
Yeah, so I think joy is real important. Joy is the, one might say, other side of the coin that we look at when we talk about leading with compassion.
Mm.
And talk about leading with compassion is how do we reduce suffering? How do I look at what might be creating challenges for employees? What might create challenges for managers? What might be creating challenges or pain for those who we serve? And how might we reduce that suffering? And on the other side of that coin, or with that, is also how might we be intentional about creating joy and helping us find more joy, helping us inspire more joy. Because I think that both of that, all of that gives us more opportunity to be effective in supporting our workforces. You know, looking at things around wellness, be it emotional wellness, mental wellness, spiritual wellness, physical wellness, all leading to a person being better positioned to being a healthier and high contributor in the workforce. So I'm looking forward to talking about joy, Andre.
Wow, absolutely.
So
I am impressed.
joy in August. Can't wait for joy to come.
Can't
And
wait.
yeah, and then why don't we, before we talk about uncertainty, why don't we go on and throw the ball out and say, what are we doing in September?
And in September, after all that joy that we're going to get in August, we're going to focus around effective governance, especially as it relates to, the board of directors and nonprofits and organizations and some of their responsibilities, because all boards are not equal, that's for sure. And I'm finding out with my experience in a nonprofit. But we'll look at legal fiduciary duties, the responsibilities that the board is supposed to do. And what I have found out is they're actually supposed to help you with your fundraising for your organizations. And when I found that out, it's like, hey, so what's going on? What are we doing? Definitely the strategic planning part, so that they can plan out for not just what you have to do this year, but really looking forward to seeing what they might be able to do in the future. Oversight of that executive leadership. Sometimes they might bump heads, but that's all right. That's really important to have an oversight for the executive leadership, because just because you're the ED or president doesn't mean that you control everything. They still have to report to someone. Again, that fundraising, looking for different resources. How involved are they with the community engagement? Is it an advocacy group? What are they doing? How well are they helping the people who they really serve? Because let's face it, they are there to serve others. And then how do you recruit new board members? It's not a lifetime position. We need to move people around so that we can have change in thought and more diversity in our thought process, because sometimes people get very comfortable on that role and they just want to stay there, but they're comfortable, but they're not effective. So just looking at how we will talk about that, but you can still be joyous on the board. We can still be joyous. But there are just some rules that we have to follow, and you both know how I like those rules.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that'll be perfect. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So no, love it. And in the and I know boards are made up differently. Some boards have term limits, some don't. And to your point, I know our board actually has term limits, and people can still stay connected to the organization and
Right.
decide to rotate back onto our board. So that'll be a lively conversation in September.
Yes.
Looking forward to more about that. you know,
Dr. I'm
uh-huh.
sorry, Dr. White, I think the other piece that allude to Dr. Howard was stepping into, I think the most ineffective, and I know we'll get to this in September, ineffective governance is when the governance loses its way, right? They become
Mhm.
micromanagers within
Definitely.
the
Right.
organization. And I
Right.
often hear
Yes.
about that's a trouble spot for a lot of organizations where board members want to come in and do day-to-day kinds of things and stick their
Mhm.
nose into the day-to-day operations. And it's like, that's when you know you're gone the wrong way with some of the
Yeah.
governance pieces. So yeah,
Yeah.
looking forward
Right.
to that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no, keeping operational and
absolutely.
strategy,
Absolutely.
strategy. And hopefully by laying out some of these different topics that we're looking at, we can support people in developing their own
Yeah.
self-development plan
Yes.
for their leadership, be it an emerging leader or a leader who is out there and just looking for resources.
Yes.
Mhm.
So great, great, great.
Wow.
Moving into the topic for June, maybe our having a pre-conversation
Hmm.
on leading through uncertainty. Love to hear, Dr. Dre, maybe your thoughts on that topic with regards to when you have
Yeah.
um, experienced uncertainty and having to deal with it. What strategies did you use? How did you navigate through uncertainty?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. White. I think let me be honest and full transparent here. I love uncertainty. I
Mhm.
think uncertainty really creates innovation. It creates a different way to think about how to move forward within an organization. It really develops the muscle sometimes of leaders is to be able to understand the paradigm of uncertainty. Uncertainty is always going to be part of the game. And throughout my career, throughout my short life, I've had to deal with uncertainty in so many varied ways, right? Whether it's regulatory changes within an organization, whether it's dealing with staff issues that, totally wouldn't even think about some of that. But staffing issues is huge when it comes to uncertainty. Do you have the right people on the bus? Is it the right size bus? Who do you kick off the bus during uncertain times? Who do you pull on the bus? I mean, so I think that has been some challenge for me in terms of my own career, thinking about uncertainty as part of the process. And then also, at times, asking myself the question, am I good at dealing with uncertainty
Mhm.
when things come down the pike? How do I respond? Am I doing it the right way? Am I doing it in a way that sets an example, or am I chaotic? And people hear that, they see that. That's all they get from me is that the chaos that I go through when uncertainty does take place. And so I think all of these experiences have taught me that uncertainty is not something that we should try to hide or run away from, because guess what? It's always going to be part of the game for leaders. And the more we can embrace uncertainty and engage it, the more we can navigate effectively and become very powerful stewards in terms of the organizations and the camps that we may lead as part of that process. So I think for me, think about strategies, engaging certain uncertainty and making sure I know it's part of the game is how I operate. That certainly there are things I need to be certain about, but certainty is not always 100%. That I also need to tangle in that there's going to be some uncertainty. And I realize I focus only on what I can control, while acknowledging there's these other outside external influences that's part of the process as well. So, it really, makes me think about, get a hold of myself, breathe, and just understand it's about being able to manage and control what you can control. I think that the last piece I'll add to that is, another powerful strategy for me has been, really building strong relationships, right? So as we think about this leadership is not just this one individual who's really held accountable for everything. Although everything does fall on the leader, it's important for that leader to build a lot, alliances and assets and talent. And folks that they could perhaps depend upon to deal with certain things. Because again, I don't have all the answers. And so as we navigate and mesh through uncertainty, just making sure I've got a team that I can rely on, that I can ask for feedback, that I can say, hey, could you take control of this situation? because I'm exhausted. I'm expended in terms of my energy as part of that process. And that's been very powerful for me in terms of thinking about a strategy. So
Mhm. So those strategies for you, what have been some of the outcomes for the strategies?
I think for me, it's paid off, right? What it has done is it's made me a stronger leader. It's made our team a stronger organization. We have been able to connect with the clients that we, work with, co-create with, and deliver, top line in terms of revenue or outcomes or our mission. It's paid off because of that rub that we've had. So I've seen that, and it's made me a better person. Not only in the organization but outside the organization too, as well, right? I think that's the other piece we fail to sometimes acknowledge is that I'm a leader in the organization, but I'm also a leader outside the organization. So it's
Right.
made me realize that I'm really a human being, and it's personal for me too as part of that process. So it's made me a better person and leader outside the organization as well. It's been a very powerful outcome for me. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so Dr. White, what's been your experience with dealing with uncertainty? I know we got a break coming up here in a couple of minutes, but love for you to just tap into that question yourself.
Yeah, I've well, certainly, we've seen some ebbing and flowing. I can think of a number of situations that were small situations dealing with uncertainty, and then some large ones. I think maybe the larger one that we're dealing with right now, currently, I think for so many nonprofits, have to do with funding. And
Yeah.
another time where I think we just dealt with so much uncertainty was during COVID.
Mm,
And
Mhm.
and I think through each of those pieces of uncertainty, be it a small one or a large one, it's like, how do I get enough clarity so that I can move forward and I can also help lift the clarity for others and really, so really lifting the fog and then trying to figure out what is, as you said, Dr. Dre, within our control, and what
mm.
might we be able to influence, and how might we put some things into perspective. So I'll look forward to sharing more about that, and maybe even using one of those experiences as a case study as we come back after our break. I think it's time for that. So please stay with us, and after our break, we'll come back and share more about our own experiences leading through uncertainty, dealing with uncertainty, and see where our conversation goes from there with regards to our tips and our hope for today that we might be able to share. So be right back with more on Leadership Matters, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters. Before we went to break, I was Dr. Dre, responding to the question with regards to my own experiences dealing with uncertainty. And I think, of course, we are now dealing with a lot of uncertainty. But one of the thoughts, if I just kind of reflect, maybe one of the biggest moments of uncertainty in personal life, in work life, life in general, was during the pandemic. I mean, who would have thought that we would have experienced a pandemic? Um, I think in those moments, there were, I look at a lot of different frameworks around uncertainty. One of the ones that actually stand out to me, and that maybe in some ways we consciously or unconsciously navigated through, says, as you said, Dr. Dre, accept the things that are not under our control and focus on the things that we can control. I recall in the moment really doing that for myself and trying to do that for my team. We were still going out delivering training. So getting, this was before the shutdown, getting masks and, hand sanitizers and all those things that we felt we could do to be safer. And then after the shutdown happened, being able to figure out how do we transition into doing things virtually so that we were still adding value, but adding value in a way that kept the team safe and also kept employees within our organization and other organizations safe, keeping things in perspective, knowing that this bigger unknown thing was happening, but really narrowing in on and focusing in on, my associate VP that reported into me, Dr. Alfonso Rodriguez, shout out to him, really working with the team and looking at what could we do training wise that would keep employees engaged and keep them improving and getting ready for hopefully the time to come after the pandemic. Acknowledge our own feelings, surveying our employees and figuring out what was happening in their lives, engaging them. I remember doing, opportunities to connect virtually to kind of keep a pulse on them, a pulse on ourselves, but also keeping staying engaged. I remember that was like the first time ever one would think of holding a lunch meeting in Zoom and having coffee in Zoom and breaks in Zoom with others. And I've continued some of those things because a lot of times it's easier to have happy hour at home in Zoom rather than trying to bounce out in public. We kind of learned a lot of different things. But really setting some goals still that we could set and that we could achieve, and controlling our own thoughts because there was a lot of devastation at that time. I mean, turn on the TV and there's just the death toll just rising and rising and rising. So and I remember myself probably also trying to learn as much. So there were the things I could control, but there were other things I could influence. And Undraye, I was just like a pain in the butt around masks, doors being open, air purifiers, definitely influencing, based on things that I learned as to what we could do. Because what was the most important, which I think is another thing to do in the midst of uncertainty, is to focus on what's important. What is really important? So for me, it was honing in on what was most important. For me, it was life, making sure that we helped people stay healthy and safe. And also during that time, trying to engage in some self-care and learning from, past experiences, what might we do? And also planning, as I said, for the future and being patient with the process, with ourselves, being patient with others, and really being able to, focus on celebrating past and present successes so that we kind of go back to that goal and that discussion for August so that we could bring some joy. So we could bring some joy. We could reduce some suffering in the midst of what was a very devastating time full of lots of uncertainty. And I know my CEO will probably have much more to talk about with the uncertainty because he's had to lead us through some really challenging times of uncertainty during his tenure. I want to say he's probably been at Neighborhood House 19, 20 years now. And lots of things have happened over these last 2 decades. So.
Okay. Dr.
Yeah.
Sheryl, it sounds like there were so many positive outcomes that you took from a devastating situation. The
Mhm.
self-care, the planning, being patient, the celebrations that you take, even the idea of having lunch online with Zoom. But of those things, what would you say was your most favorable outcome?
I think the most important outcome for me during that period of time was keeping employees safe.
Mm.
Keeping employees safe, I think, was number one. And I think the victory that our CEO, our executive team, with our our CEO and others were critical with regards to working with our funders. So of our 800 plus employees, we were able to keep, I want to say 95% of everybody
Wow,
employed.
that's wonderful.
So,
Wow.
really being able to still deliver services, um, engage employees, and keep people in a space where they were able to take care of their families, what I'd say was the most important and most significant outcome.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, of course, Dr. Loretta, we can't move from this topic without hearing your experience and what you've taken away and how you've dealt with uncertainty.
Okay. A lot of the uncertainty that I've dealt with in the workplace came from issues of working with for-profit organizations. However, they would acquire other businesses. So, of course, we had restructuring and a lot of new leadership was
Mhm.
happening when we would go and take over different locations. So, one of the things, strategies that I found that really helped us when we would do it, because no one really likes change, is I'm a big believer in just having that honest communication with people, having those town hall meetings, having those smaller, intimate meetings with groups, and just informing them and letting them know what's going on, and not just talking to them, but we had written documentation. Um, People could communicate via sending anonymous emails, all kinds of things, but being very honest with people about what's going on. Because one of the things that we needed to always squash was that rumor mill.
Mm.
Because when you aren't telling people what's going on, they're going to start, their imaginations will run wild. And some may be grounded in truth, some of it, may not. But just making sure that you're actually circling back and being honest with people about what's going on and having those meetings. One of the strategies that I really found useful was tapping into what I like to call unofficial leaders.
Mm.
Those were the people in the organization. So after the leadership has had this big PowerPoint and all this meeting and told you all this stuff, they're going to go over to this person over here and say, well, what do you think about what's going on?
Mm.
Those unofficial leaders are so important in an organization. And I always felt that if I could meet with them, find out what was on their mind, answer questions as best as I could. And if I didn't know something, to go and get an answer. Of course, there were times when you could not share every detail, but just let them know that things were working and there was a work in progress. But if I could get those people to commit to the change, then they're going to tell the rest of the folks who are wondering about, it's like, it's okay. This is going to be all right. We're going to be all right. Even when it came to the point of having to do reduction in workforce, and we had to do that, but it was done in such a way where you work with them to even help them find other employment by giving them resources and things like that. So that honest communication to me is very important, and being as transparent as you possibly can with people, just to squash a lot of the rumor mills, because we're human. We're gonna make it up if somebody doesn't tell us something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know, Dr. Loretta, we're going to be at break in a couple of minutes, but outcomes, I mean, were you pleased with the outcomes from some of the strategies you employed? I mean, were you 100% satisfied with outcomes?
Well, in all honesty, no, not 100%, because it's never easy to let people go. So
Mm.
when I heard Dr. White say that they were able to save like 95%
Yeah.
of that workforce. That's amazing to me, because sometimes our goal was to go in, we were changing everything, and those were difficult conversations. But I was always satisfied with being honest with them. And really, we would find resources. That was one of my biggest things. It's like, well, what are other resources? Do they have a skill set that's a transferable skill? Because sometimes people think, well, this is all I've ever done. This is what I know to do. But when you work with them, you can help them identify that they may have transferable skills. And while you're not doing this, but maybe we can help you get over there. We worked with organizations that would actually help them to redo their resumes and all those things. So that part I was happy with, but it was never easy to let people know that, hey, you've been here 15 years, but we don't need you anymore. We're moving in a different direction. So the honesty is no, that was not always pleasant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that really gets tough when you think about some of those actions you've got to take in terms of leadership.
Mhm.
We can't take it for granted either, right? Leadership is something that, you can't just wake up one morning and say, "Hey, I'm a leader." I mean, it
No.
really takes some time to mind the camp in terms of becoming an impactful and effective leader as part of that process. So, wow, yeah, so great stories. So,
Yeah, I love that, and love
yes.
the emphasizing the honesty and the communication and the over communication that
Mm,
very often needs to happen, and tapping into even the informal leaders to kind of
Mhm.
help with that process of dealing with the uncertainty and
yeah,
managing the potential rumor mill and
right.
negativity that can sometimes come if we're not leading in a way that's emphasizing and
Mhm.
injecting inspiration and positivity in the midst
Right.
of those challenges.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
Absolutely.
don't you ladies love uncertainty though? I mean, it sounds like I just love it.
No, that's you.
Oh,
Yeah, that is you.
okay.
That,
If
that was
possible, I'd like to know what's coming down the pipe, but
I know
Okay.
one we're gonna have to do a conversation on personalities. We know we're all different, we got different personalities out there. So that is definitely not for all of us,
Right.
but
no.
Absolutely.
definitely. So it looks like we actually need to take another break. But when we come back, one of the questions we're going to be asking all of our guests to share is what do they hope for their journey and just their hopes, and maybe we can share that as we transition into making sure that we're asking about the hopes of our guests when they join us. So please stay with us, and we will finalize some of the conversation with regards to uncertainty as we look forward of having guests on talking more about this topic next month. But on the other side of the commercial break, we'll see you and provide more that hopefully will inform our leaders and inspire solutions. And we are back with more on Leadership Matters. Dr. Sheryl White, Dr. Undraye Howard, and Dr. Loretta Howard. Dr. Dre, I'm going to throw it over to you.
Oh, this has been such a rich discussion, so I've enjoyed it. I can't believe our time is really just
Right.
fast. And so looking forward to, again, future discussions around the whole uncertainty piece. While we're on uncertainty, can I ask you, Dr. Cheryl, Dr. Loretta, a question about do you think this uncertainty will always exist? I mean, is there ever an ending point? And let me answer it first. Yes. I mean, well, what would life be without uncertainty? It would be dull. It would be boring. And leaders need to be challenged. So bring it on. I'm saying that now, of course, until uncertainty comes knocking on my back door. Then it's going to be a different perspective, a different answer. But Dr. Cheryl, Dr. Loretta, what do you think? You think uncertainty will always exist?
I think it will always exist to some extent. I hope that the extent is not radical. I can take the calm of sameness and creating challenges. And I think that as human beings, we don't know everything. We can't
Right.
foresee anything. So unintended consequences happen that we create, and then stuff just happens. So yeah, I think uncertainty is going to be something that we as leaders have to anticipate will always be with us, and we have to always figure out how to navigate and lead and deal and work with it.
Definitely. Dr. Loretta, what do
Um, I think uncertainty is just a part of human nature. I
you?
really do, because we can't predict everything. There is no secret crystal ball to really tell us what's going to happen. So I think the short answer is yes, but if we actually try to eliminate uncertainty, I think it would be a losing battle, because it is going to happen no matter what. But I do think that what we need to do is try to help to maybe change some mindsets of people, and it'll help them to handle it a little bit better, so they don't just go running around like the sky is falling, my head's on fire. There are ways that you can handle certain things, but as Dr. White had talked about before with the pandemic, no one could have predicted that. No one could have predicted that. But I think that has put us at a point where now we start thinking about things in a different way. Look at all the way that we're doing things online, virtual, those types of things. So it has changed our mindset. And if we can continue to do that, maybe we can be better prepared for the next new uncertainty that will surely come. Yes.
Yeah, it's changed mindset and behaviors. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I think one of the questions that we said we're going to be asking our guests is, what do you hope for? So maybe start with each of you. Dr. Loretta, how about yourself? What do you hope for?
My goodness. Okay, there are so many levels. I want to say, well, which level do you want to know where my hopes are? But uh, actually, I hope that one of the things that we can do, and I can do personally, is that I make a difference and make people challenge themselves, open their minds to other options. I hope that people will stop being closed-minded or having such a narrow purview that they can't see a bigger picture, or at least they're willing to listen. And when you listen to someone else's perspective, you might learn something about yourself, and you will say, "Hey, I never thought of it that way. Well, let me try it." So just I hope people will become more open-minded and learn to accept things in another way, or at least look at it from a different perspective. My way is not always the right way. It's not. Someone else can tell me how to do something and maybe do it better and more efficiently. So that is what I hope for.
Wonderful. And how about yourself, Dr. Dre?
Yeah, I can say ditto to what Loretta said, so it makes it easier. But my hope, my biggest hope is that we can get along with one another, right? And talking about advancing humanity and engaging each other with respect. And notice, I didn't say agree with each other all the time. That's no fun either. We're going to have disagreements. We're going to have disconnect points. that's par for the course. What I am looking for, though, is that we can sit down and have a respectful discussion. We can have dialogue. And at the end of the day, we can agree to disagree, but
Right.
for the whole common good of advancing humanity. Because I'm often reminded life is so very short.
Mhm.
So, what are you going to do as a leader to make life impactful? What are you going to do to make a difference? Not only today, but tomorrow. When
Mhm.
you're long gone, what's the books going to say about you when they open up the history books? What's it going to say about Dr. Loretta, Dr. Cheryl, Dr. Andre?
Mhm.
What did they leave behind in terms of advancing humanity? So really, my hope is that we continue to just understand each other a bit better, get along with each other. Okay to disagree, but we still can be respectful and support each other as part of that process. So, how about you, Dr. Cheryl? What do you think? What's your biggest hope?
I think, I always look at the culture becomes what's being modeled, supported, and rewarded, and and leaders' roles in that. So I'm hoping for more ethical and compassionate leadership. When we say ethical leadership is helping to make the world better, fairer, and more humane. And compassion, again, how do we become real intentional about reducing suffering and increasing joy?
Yeah,
So that is, I think, my hope.
yeah,
My
All
hope.
right.
that's great.
Excellent.
That's great.
Yes,
Well, what
yes.
about final thoughts? I know we got to wrap up here in another minute or so, but what's final thoughts about wow, we've got a packed lineup coming up next several months, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to our guests, engaging them in some
Yes.
discussion and finding a way to get our audience involved, whether it's kind of sending us some questions beforehand or allowing an opportunity for a chat or two as we go through the show. But I'm really looking forward to this new venture with the new partner, Dr. Loretta, joining the team, and
Mhm.
again, Dr. Cheryl, continuing to poke for fun and some disturbance in the process. So that's what it's all about, chaos and uncertainty. So I love it. So I'm looking forward to that.
Definitely. I am joining you and looking forward to the same. And I know we got about 30 seconds before we are wrapping up. Dr. Loretta, any final thoughts?
My final thoughts are that I'm just looking forward to this. I appreciate so much that you asked me to join you all. It is truly an honor. And I'm looking to learn from both of you as well as our guests and audience members.
Wonderful. And I'm going to say ditto. And thank you to each of you for not only being on today, but for agreeing to be with us on a regular basis as we look for ways in which we can inform leaders and inspire solutions. So thank you to our listening audience. Please join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or download our podcast at your convenience. And until next time, keep on keeping on. Again, informing leaders, inspiring.